She had a list of passwords for me. And when I was getting into the computers at home to get through, to find some of this information that I had to find, I found that she said even more typical Freda. She loved games, mind teasers, brain teasers with me. Turn on the computer, that's fine. Load Freda setting, no. Password required. I can't tell you how, but I came up with it on the first try. I had no idea, but I knew that she knew that if I was in that situation, that's what I would type in. When I was going through all of the documents that you got to go through in a situation like this, I found this, Saturday. It was in our safe at home. Cracked the code on that one too. Figured that one out. And I was looking for a copy of Freda's will. And she was so organized, everything was in there. There was one envelope that just said Mike. So I took it and thought, well, this must be something about me. This must be, one of my forms from a car or a house or something. So I opened it up, and there was a letter that Freda had written to me on October 16th, 2004. Excuse me. I'm going to read it to you now because I believe, I don't believe everything happens for a reason. I don't think there's some master plan. But I think my wife is in a much better place now. Whenever God takes somebody, someone is taken from us. I do really believe what I've said on the air all along, that everybody goes to heaven. But for somebody as sweet and as decent and as gentle and as loving as my angel, she is in the front row. I know that. And I knew that from the moment I heard that she was dead. She writes, Dear Mike, again, this is written almost a year ago. Dear Mike, I dreamt last night I died. I hate to say it because it sounds like a jinx, and I like Earth, but I thought I should write down some thoughts just in case. And it seemed like less of a jinx to write them down than to tell them to someone else. I think of Lee with his letter to Judy and Leo, remarking on what a good life he'd had, and why I don't want to make my own auspicious comments. I'll break in for a second and tell you she's talking about her brother, Lee, who passed away 5 years ago, and my brother-in-law, Leo, who had passed away as well. So she writes she would not want to make her own auspicious comments. However, in my dream, it was my turn to go. And there were things I wanted to tell my loved ones but could not. First, I wasn't afraid, and I felt no pain. I just saw a light so bright it made it hard to see anything else. I had no idea what was happening with my body. It was very peaceful. I wanted my family reassured how much I loved them. Don't be sad for me. I am fine. My only sadness was that my family would be sad. But I knew that they would be okay. Kind of like when your toddler drops an ice cream cone and is so sad. So you comfort him, feel sorry for him, but you know he's really okay. Just know that all is all right, and as it should be. I am happy. Mike, I love you so much. I am so proud of you and Bob. I've been so lucky to have my family, my mom, my dad, my brothers and sisters. Our spirits are connected. We will be together again. 10/16/04. Like I said, just put in this drawer in a safe that up until 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't even want to know. I had no idea. You know, what's in their passports, documents. I don't know. That's a beautiful letter, though. That's how I believe that she is now. Bart is doing great. I think I mentioned this before, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself. He and I are moving on with our lives. He has become more mature than I ever could imagine. On the Friday with the viewing, he was there for me because there were so many friends and such an outpouring that I was having a hard time handling it. And he was strong as a rock. And he would pull me aside, say, Dad, are you ready to talk to so-and-so? Dad, do you want to talk to so-and-so? And then conversely on Saturday at the funeral, he was losing it. And it was my turn to go to my son and say, I am here for you. He had wanted to say something and found that he couldn't. He was overcome with emotion. I said, don't worry about it. You know, do what you need to do. I'm here for you. When people would say, they would say it for Freda, not to me. You know, how can you be married to him? And the folks just didn't get it. They didn't get it because we didn't let you in on it because it would have made for great listenership. We had a bond, a love that could not be broken, that we would never, ever be separated, except for a situation like this, which I never imagined happening. Despite what jokes I would make on the air with Rob about how we would do in our wives. Now here's a bulletin for all you listeners. They knew we were kidding. They were okay with it. She was the most positive person that I ever knew. She helped me to see the better side of people. She helped me to learn not to act on impulse, to think things through. All at the same time going with my first gut instinct. During the vacation, there was lots of family over. At one point, I pulled her aside, and I said, we got to get these people out of here. And she said, why? And I said, because I just want to be with you. And she went down and she cleared out the place. It was just she and I. I'm so glad that I had her for so long. I'm so glad that she knew how much I loved her. How devoted I was to her. When people say, how could you be married? You know, they didn't know. We had a bond of love and trust. I'll give you an explanation. A lot of guys in business, they put some of their stuff in like a spouse's name in case you get sued, which Mike and I have been sued a couple of times. So they say, you know, the important stuff, you put it in your wife's name. But, you know, always leave, you know, make sure you're covered. Well, for the last almost 24 years we've been married, I had more than one lawyer, well-intentioned, say to me, why is everything in Freda's name? Don't you realize that, I mean, if you guys split up, you're screwed? I said, we're never splitting up. Never splitting up. Why would I want it any other way? I never fathomed that I'd be alive and she'd be dead. I trusted her. I loved her. She got me to tap into a spiritual side that I didn't know existed for me. But I don't bring up on this show because it's not proper place, proper venue. She was an incredible woman. I talked to a friend of mine, George Michael from Channel 4, a couple of days after Freda had died. And somebody called me and said, turn on Channel 4. And they're doing a very nice piece on Freda. And I knew that George had to have something to do with that. Because, Mike and I stink worse than dead fish at Channel 4. But it was nice. And I called George. And of course he said, no, I didn't have anything to do with it. I know he's lying about that. And I said to George that he should really treasure what he has with that. That's his wife. And George doesn't talk about this, and I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning this. I told George that he and Pat have a marriage much like Freda and I. She's his producer, more or less. I mean, George calls his own shots at Channel 4. But there would not be one event or one function that we would go to where we would never fail to see them together. And I also mentioned to Dude Walker and his wife the same thing. But those are two couples that I saw who had lives that seemed in that regard, as far as their relationship went, to parallel what Freda and I had. And I said to both of them, not that you're not doing this now. Don't ever take her for granted. Because I was so lucky to meet someone like Freda, who shared my passions, was my soulmate, my best friend, my confidant, from the inside and out, and vice versa. I think these guys have some similar women with them. And I just had to call George and tell him that. I don't know what to say when people ask me, how are you doing? What do you say? How do you think I'm doing? My world's freaking upside down. But I gotta go on. I gotta move on. The commercials are going to be screwed up today. That's too bad. I want to also take a second here. Bear with me. This is not like an Academy Awards thing, but I'm probably not going to have the chance to thank these people. Of course, all of the people at the station and on the show know how much I love them, and I appreciate their support. But besides that, at the viewing and at the funeral, I was blown away by people who work in this business. Some of whom I never even thought would show. Some, and I never conceived that I'd be holding court for Freda's funeral. But I wanted to thank longtime friend of Freda and mine, Surf, from 94.7 for showing up. A good friend, always been there. Donnie Simpson, who was just such a pro and had already been to one funeral that day. It meant a lot to me that Donnie was there, and we had some good times. The Cats, stupid old Steve Kingston, and Jack Diamond, if you can believe that. friend Marilyn, our friend, Freda's friend, my friend, Marilyn called and said, Jack Diamond wants to know if he can come. And my first thought was, no, hell no. And I thought, he's not doing it to like make it a bit on his show. The guy wants to pay his respects. That's what Freda would want me to do. So I said, sure. And Jack Diamond, who I've talked about on the radio for, I don't know, 15 years, back and forth. But he's a jerk and he's a no talent and I'm a big mouth, and it was the back and forth. All of a sudden I realized, we both bring our shtick, but he was a guy who was being genuine. And his kindness blew me away. Now, you're never going to hear me say that again on another day. But that's absolutely true. Also, I know that it would have been easy for a lot of disc jockeys to make this event a gag on their show. Word has gotten back to me, and I appreciate the fact that Howard Stern just discussed it with class. Opie and Anthony did the same. Dave at DCRTV.com had pages and pages of beautiful letters that Freda had written about, and people had written about Freda, and I thank him for that. There were so many things said and written about Freda. Mark Fisher wrote a couple of paragraphs about her in the Washington Post, and that was greatly appreciated. Kind of hit the nail on the head with what Freda and I were all about. And I'd also like to thank Richard Loper with the Chicago Sun-Times. That, over 20 years since I've been on in that market, he remembered Freda. That was wonderful of him, and I appreciate it. Willard Scott and Ed Walker. I got a letter from Willard Scott that would make you cry. Will not read that to you, but I thank him and Ed as well. And Ron and Fez, of course. Ron and Fez were there Friday night. I know you guys are gone now. I knew you were going. I love you guys and thank you. And even today, coming in, there's just boxes of mail. And I get this. It's your typical condolence card. Don, I've had you in my prayers. All the best to you. God bless. Your friend, Rick Dees. Rick Dees. A lot of my radio friends have been supportive. Cleveland Wheeler, Dan Becker, everybody from the old days, Dave Robbins. But it's when I don't know my point here. My point is that there are people that have been incredibly kind to me in this time, and I appreciate it. And I think the reason that they are able to is that they also know that what I do is an act. I hope it will not stop you from listening to the show when it goes back to normal tomorrow, or when we play best of when I get done here today. But it will go back to normal. And just know what my family is. I'm doing a show. I'm doing a show. The real me. While I'm full of faults and insecurities, the real me was when I was with Freda, and when I'm with Bart, and when I'm with those that I feel the most comfortable with. In real life, I'm a pretty gentle guy. I don't lose my temper. I tell those around me who are important to me how important they are. And this is all a part of what Freda brought to the equation. That when I met her, I was a lost soul. I was coming out of an awful family. I'd gotten married and divorced, had a child before I was 18 and a half years old. My life was a mess. And she turned me around. I said, they're like Elvis. She turned me around, Jack. She did. And her spirit lives inside me. So if you ever turn this radio station on, and I'm on with Mike and all my buddies, and I'm calling somebody an ass, telling them to go to hell, challenging them to a fight, talking about some disc jockey who killing the ratings, just try to remember today. If you ever really get so caught up in it that you can't realize it's entertainment, just try to remember today. That's all it is, folks. Just freaking entertainment. And I'm glad that I could share Freda with you. Because what you heard on the air with her was genuine. In the context of doing the show. And I hope you could feel the genuine love, affection, and respect we had for each other. Only a few people around here even know that Freda and I had a dream that we were going to put the contract up and retire somewhere and stop thinking about this show 24 hours a day, and we were just going to have, bear the fruits of our labor. And she knew I loved Tampa Bay. I love Washington. It's been our home for over 20 years, but I've loved Tampa Bay every time I've been down there. And I had to sell her on it. She went down there, and she called me up. It was one of the times she was down in Florida. She said, "You are not going to believe this. I have just found your dream house on Madeira Beach. And then you open up the sliding glass doors and you are on the beach. That white sand, just like the St. Beach Beach, it's it." Oh, we were supposed to close on that place on the 15th. That dream will not happen. But I'm content with the way things ended with my sweet Freda. Because we were happy, and we were in love, and we were partners in every sense of the word. And we were anxiously looking forward to the next chapter of our lives, where I could devote more time to her and she to me. She was busy. And besides, she was a full-time mother. She had gone back to school. She had gone back to taking art classes at the Corcoran. And she started a career in designing and interior decorating. I just bought a store downtown, for God's sake. And which ran our website. Nothing that woman couldn't do. I said to her, baby, let's just wait, let's wait 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, And you're smart, you work. I'll take some time off. We used to laugh about that all the time. I miss her. I miss her so much every goddamn day. There are times I find it impossible to just function sure that you guys all knew what a special woman she was. And if she touched your life, you're lucky. And if you got something out of hearing Freda on this show, or you're one of the people that met her, God knows she was immensely more approachable than me. We'd be in Ocean City. People would come up and they know who we were. And I'd go, oh God, I don't want to do this. And she would walk right up and, hi, how you doing? And I'm so glad that we had our last vacation together. And we were able to, we're planning the Tampa Bay thing, which obviously is not happening now, but, you know, again, the part of me that you never heard about on the radio was the fact that, you know, I complained about going for walks with my wife or going for bike rides. Generally speaking, on a day-to-day basis, yeah, I did. But I did it with her too, because it made her happy. And on our vacation in Ocean City, those last 2 weeks, we were inseparable. We spent all of our time together. We went to all of our favorite restaurants. We went to Iguana Surf. We went to Tequila Mockingbird. Rode our bikes for miles and miles and miles. I would have done anything for her. I would give my life 1,000,000 times over. I do not know why she's gone and I'm still here. But going back to what she wrote, she is in a much better place now. I also really got to thank the police. Fairfax County Police. Gosh, the day after Freda died, the cops came to my door. And I thought, what can this be? You know, they just wanted to offer some support. So, you know, sometimes houses get broken into. We'll watch your house for you. Can't thank them enough. All the Montgomery County Police at the funeral and at the wake. All of the off-duty officers. And especially the people at the barracks and at the Maryland State Police in Berlin, Maryland. Because they're the ones that had to give me the news. And I was so paranoid about our privacy, as you know. Even though we lived our lives on the radio to an extent, you know I was nuts about our privacy. So I was sitting at home on Sunday, 3 weeks ago, phone rang out of the area, and it says Wright-Sorce. Yeah. She said, this is so-and-so from the Maryland State Police. And I said, I bought the jams and jellies already, thank you. Click. Go back. Is Wright-Sorce? Yes. So-and-so the Maryland State Police. Hey, listen, I don't want it. I said, is this a joke? I immediately thought this was one of you guys, a listener. He said, I'm calling to tell your wife was in an accident. I didn't believe it. Not that I didn't believe Freda couldn't be in an accident, but this is not the way it would happen. I mean, give me your phone number and I'll call you back. Well, I called her back and found out immediately that what she was telling me was true. I want to thank all of the doctors. Johns Hopkins at the Baltimore Shock Trauma Center that brought Freda to. They were great with me. She, in essence, was dead by the time I reached the hospital, by the time they had airlifted her there. They were keeping her artificially alive long enough so that I could be there with her. And I will always appreciate them doing that for me. Freda had signed a paper long ago saying if she was ever in a coma or in a state where her life would not be, or any degree of normalcy. One of those standard things you